From its founding in 1911 to its 25th anniversary in 1936, the Laurel Church maintained a trajectory that suggested an exciting spiritual future. In 25 years, the church had grown from 4 members meeting in a rented hall to a Sunday morning attendance in the 200 range, meeting in a beautiful facility on Laurel Avenue that was ideally located to minister to the UT community. An eldership was in place made up of 3 men: the church's founder, Dr. Oliver Hill, Knoxville's first internist, Dr. Henry Long, and a local attorney by the name of Joel Anderson. All 3 were prominent men in the community. All 3 were great men of faith. In 1938, the church hired its first full-time preacher, a young dynamo by the name of W.B. Norris, whom you're going to be meeting a little later in this series. As the 1930s wound down, Laurel was on the verge of several amazing years of spectacular growth in ministry that would come in the 1940s and the 1950s. The future was bright. But before the family could enjoy those years, it had to absorb a devastating loss. What you're about to hear are excerpts written by a newspaper columnist who simply referred to himself as Dempster. On June 26, 1939, his column in the Knoxville Journal was titled "Like It or Not."
Dr. W.D. Richmond, son of the Scotch Presbyterian minister, brought the first daughter to our house 22 years ago, just before failing health caused him to surrender his practice. As he bade us goodbye, he told of a young doctor who performed miracles with children and suggested, when in need, that we call Dr. Oliver W. Hill. This we did, and he brought our Josephine through a crisis as he had done for hundreds of others. With the gift of winning the confidence of the little sufferers, the name of Dr. Hill became a nursery byword as his fame increased with the years. Even though driving hard all day and part of the night, he, like many other doctors, found time to minister to those of low estate with a contribution that cannot be computed in dollars. It is doubtful if Mrs. Hasley's Home for Friendless Babies could have carried on in the early years without the free help of this man, who would leave an office full of paying patients when word came that a homeless waif had been found on the highway side and needed his help. A few years ago, he suffered an infection from the bite of a delirious child that would have cost his life had it not been for the combined medical and surgical skill of the leading practitioners in Knoxville who, following the traditions of the fraternity, rallied to his aid. This assistance, together with the care of a devoted family and bevy of nurses, kept him on this side of the river with the loss of only the index finger on the right hand. After his convalescence, he told me of his indebtedness to those who aided him in his distress. All during our frequently interrupted conversation, he was quickly moving from room to room in his clinic where distracted mothers held suffering children waiting for his magic touch. Dr. Hill has an able son who is walking in the footsteps of his distinguished sire, and when the first heart attack came 10 days ago, the son stood by the bedside. The father smilingly said, "This illness is putting me behind on my fishing." While reading, 1 week later, pain came again as the sun rose over the eastern hills, and the doctor went over the divide. No church edifice could hold the parents of the children he had kept in this world that he himself had to leave so soon. The services were held under the protecting arms of the spreading elms in the garden at the home by youthful Reverend Billy Norris, who struggled to control his emotion as he eloquently told the passing of the man who leavened his knowledge of medicine with a sincere belief in the greatest physician of them all.